Hey everyone, I'm Mariana, and as promised, I'm bringing back my monthly wrap-ups. Now, if you've seen my wrap-ups before, which it's been a while, but if you remember, I used to combine everything I read and watched into one video, but because I'm going to be doing my movie portion of the wrap-up slightly differently now, it's just too much to put into one video. So today I am going to talk about everything that I've read in April, and tomorrow I will have my movie and TV wrap up on this channel. So look forward to that, and let's get into all of the books that I read in April. So first of all, I finished American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I've been talking a lot about American Gods on this channel lately. Only finished American Gods, not Anansi Boys, because this edition has both, but I started reading this in March and I was loving it, and I finished it in the beginning of April and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it is fantastic. I am not going to talk about this book because I talked about it a little bit in my catch-up video, and also I talked about it in my Everything You Need to Know About American Gods video. Even though that one is mostly for the TV show, I did end up talking about the plot and the book quite a bit. So loved this, one of my favorite books now. Magical, weird, wonderfully written, and definitely worth the hype for me. Next up, I read The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I did not have to read this in school. It was never assigned to me, so this was my first time reading this classic, and prepare yourself for an unpopular opinion. I did not love this book. I enjoyed it for certain reasons, but the characters were killing this for me. I wrote this in my review on Goodreads, and I will say it again, I love reading about flawed characters. I find them interesting, but these people in here were not just flawed. I thought they were various levels of insufferable, and I just could not stand every single one of them, and that severely impacted my enjoyment of the book. I did really love the writing though, so I will definitely be reading more F. Scott Fitzgerald in the future because he has a very distinct writing style that appeals to me, and I also really enjoyed the setting. I thought the way he portrayed the Roaring Twenties and the way he reflected on the culture and the values of the time was very interesting. It's just that the characters, they were killing my enjoyment of this. I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars because there's definitely more good in here than bad, and I probably would enjoy this more if I decided to read this again, but I just can't say that I loved this, and it's definitely not one of my favorite books. Then I read Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, which is the 3rd book in the Grisha trilogy. This is a young adult fantasy series. I don't have the book anymore because I took the entire trilogy to a used bookstore because I decided I didn't want to keep it. I finished this series because I really wanted to be done with it before I give Six of Crows a try, which supposedly is a much better series. We'll see how that goes. This was not a bad book, but I just don't think YA fantasy is the genre for me. I've tried a few different books within that, and I have to say I like dark fantasy. I like things like A Song of Ice and Fire and The First Law. The darker the better. So YA fantasy is just a little bit too light for me. A lot too light for me, actually. Plus, for me, there is the issue of the fake Russian flavor of the Grisha trilogy. I am obviously somebody who speaks fluent Russian and is very familiar with the culture, so when the author says that she is just inspired by Russian language and is making up her own words, and in reality is using actual Russian words and actual Russian things, but using them wrong and adding new meaning to them, that's going to bother me. Or when she uses stereotypes that are plain ridiculous, that's going to bother me. Even the title of the trilogy makes it difficult for me to take it seriously because Grisha in Russian is the short version of the name Grigory. So imagine reading a novel that has this magical order of people and the name of the magical order is Bobby or Timmy. Can you take that seriously? I don't think so, so that was kind of an issue for me. Anyways, like I said, it's not a bad book. I have issues with it though, so I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I was interested enough to finish the series, and I am actually impressed by how consistent the quality of the series is. Even though it's not for me, I definitely didn't feel like the 3rd book was disappointing, which is the case with a lot of trilogies. I thought the ending was really fitting, And if you enjoy YA fantasy, I think you would enjoy this if you still haven't read it for some reason. Plus, it does have one of the best villains out of the YA books that I've read, so that's a good thing. After that, I read The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North, and this book I absolutely loved, and I recommend this to everybody. I think most people would really enjoy this book. This book is about Harry August, obviously, who keeps reliving his life over and over again. He is born again after he dies under the same circumstances, the same year as before. Everything's the same, except for he remembers everything about his previous lives, and this is pretty fascinating. This book made me pause and think so many times as I was reading it. I was considering what I would do in this situation. If I knew the future, if I knew how my life was going to go, would I change things? What would I change? How would that affect everything else? It's that kind of book. It never gets boring. It never gets repetitive. The genre of this novel is kind of difficult to describe because it's part historical fiction, as he is born in the beginning of the 20th century, so the book uses a lot of historical events and settings as background. It is also part sci-fi, not the space kind of sci-fi, but the time travel, what if kind of sci-fi. And also it's part character study, which I find very interesting. The plot is very engaging. It's kind of mysterious. You don't really know what's going on. There is definitely an interesting development later on in the book, and I just did not want this to end. I loved this, gave this 5 out of 5 stars. And by the way, I did listen to this on audiobook, and the audiobook is fantastic. The narrator is great. I ended up purchasing a physical copy to add to my collection, but if you're considering an audiobook, I definitely recommend it because it's really, really good. So that's it for the books that I finished in April, but I'm also in the middle of 2 books currently that I started at the end of April. One of them is The Girls by Emma Cline, and I can't say that I'm loving this. This isn't really working for me. Part of the reason is because it really isn't what I was looking for in this book, which it's not the author's fault. They didn't write a book specifically for me, but it's just not what I was hoping it would be. This is about a girl in the 60s who joins a cult. This is based very loosely on the Manson murders. And when I heard that as a premise, I thought this was going to be a little bit more of a thriller, but this is 100% a coming-of-age story, and it's just not piquing my interest. I am going to finish it. I'm a little bit over halfway through. Maybe the last third of the book is going to blow me away completely, and it's going to make everything better and tie everything in. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen. Right now, I'm not digging it, and I'm really not a fan of the writing style either. That is a big part of why this isn't working for me, aside from my expectations. So I don't know about this. I don't think this is going to be a book that I'll be able to recommend, but I'll finish it because it's not a long book and I'm already more than halfway through it, so we'll see. And the other book that I'm in the middle of right now is It by Stephen King. This is massive. Can we just talk about how giant this book is? I could kill somebody with this thing. In most other books, I would be pretty far into this by page 221, but in this case, I barely made a dent, and we're still kind of in the setup stages, but I'm loving it because Stephen King really knows how to write characters. There's a lot of character building and background going on right now, and if he really wants you to hate a character, you're going to loathe that character. So that's great. It's definitely making me feel things, mostly anger. It's not very scary just yet. Now, I'm not really afraid of clowns, so maybe that's part of it. Don't get me wrong, Pennywise is definitely creepy when he shows up, and I love it when he enters the story. I'm hoping for much more of that, but so far, I wouldn't really categorize this as scary, and people told me this is pretty scary, so we'll see. I'm really looking forward to when things actually get going in here, and I will let you know how this this goes. Hopefully I will finish this in May. So that's it for my April reading wrap up. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books and what did you think of them, and also based on what I liked and didn't like about them, let me know if you have any recommendations for me in the comments below. As I mentioned earlier, I will do my best to post my April movie and TV wrap up tomorrow, so look forward to that. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to give it the thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you soon in the next video. Bye!